My family celebrated New Year's Eve at my late grandma's house, the same house they fought over after she died. I wasn't invited. At 11:59 p.m., my phone buzzed with a scheduled message from Grandma. Go to the basement, behind the bookshelf. The combination is your birthday. Hello everyone. My name is Emma Sullivan. I'm 34 years old, and the last text message my grandmother ever sent me arrived 3 months after she died. It came at exactly 11:59 p.m. on New Year's Eve. While the rest of my family counted down to midnight inside her old Victorian house, I sat alone in my apartment eating takeout Chinese food and pretending I didn't care that I hadn't been invited. My phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was another generic Happy New Year message. Instead, I saw Grandma's name. For one terrifying second, I forgot she'd been gone for 3 months. My hands started shaking. The message read, "My dear, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer there to tell you these things myself. Go to the basement, behind the old bookshelf. The combination is your birthday. Trust me, love always, Grandma." 20 minutes later, I was standing outside her house. Inside, my family laughed, raised champagne glasses, celebrated the inheritance they'd spent months fighting over. None of them knew I had quietly walked around to the old basement entrance, or that behind the bookshelf, there was a safe none of them had ever found. Looking back, Grandma wasn't just my grandmother. She was the person who raised me. My parents divorced when I was 7. Mom worked 2 jobs. Dad eventually moved across the country. Whenever neither could pick me up after school, Grandma was there. She taught me how to bake cinnamon rolls, how to sew missing buttons, how to balance a checkbook. Every Friday night became movie night. Every Saturday morning meant pancakes before working in her garden. She never missed a birthday, never forgot an achievement, never made me wonder whether I mattered. The rest of the family treated her differently. They visited on holidays, brought flowers, took photographs, then disappeared until the next occasion. Grandma never complained. She simply smiled. They're busy. I wasn't so sure. As she grew older, I started visiting every Wednesday after work. Sometimes we'd grocery shop. Sometimes we'd simply drink tea while she solved crossword puzzles. One afternoon, she looked around her living room and quietly said, "Funny, isn't it? What? Everyone loves this house." I smiled. "It is a beautiful house." She shook her head. "I don't think they love the memories. I think they love the property." I didn't answer, because I knew exactly what she meant. The house had been in our family for almost 80 years. Beautiful hardwood floors, original stained glass windows, a wraparound porch overlooking the river. Its value had climbed dramatically over the decades. Every Thanksgiving, someone joked about who would eventually inherit it. Grandma always changed the subject. After she turned 84, her health slowly declined. Nothing dramatic, just age. Walking became slower. Doctor appointments became more frequent. I found myself spending more and more evenings there, helping with medications, cooking dinner, changing light bulbs, replacing batteries in smoke detectors. None of it felt like work. It simply felt like spending time with someone I loved. One rainy afternoon, about 6 months before she passed away, she asked me to help organize the basement. We sorted old Christmas decorations, boxes of photographs, Grandpa's fishing equipment. As we reached the far corner, she smiled mysteriously. "Never forget this wall." I laughed. "Why?" "You'll understand someday." She tapped the old wooden bookshelf with one finger, then changed the subject so quickly that I forgot about it. 3 months later, she was gone. The funeral was beautiful. The days afterward were not. The arguments started almost immediately. Mom wanted to sell the house. My uncle insisted it should stay in the family. My cousins argued over furniture before probate had even begun. I sat quietly in the corner, listening, wondering how everyone had moved from grief to real estate so quickly. The attorney eventually read the will. Grandma divided her savings equally. Personal belongings went to specific family members. The house was placed into a family trust until the estate could be settled. Immediately, the arguments became worse. Everyone wanted control. Everyone believed they deserved it. Somehow, I became the outsider, not because Grandma loved me less, because I refused to join the fighting. Mom eventually stopped inviting me to family meetings. It's easier with fewer opinions. Then came Christmas, celebrated at my uncle's house. I wasn't invited. According to my cousin, they wanted to avoid tension. I laughed when I heard that. Apparently, the only person creating no tension was somehow the problem. Then New Year's Eve arrived. Photos appeared online all evening. Everyone smiling inside Grandma's house, holding champagne, standing beside the fireplace where she'd once read bedtime stories to me. Nobody asked where I was. At 11:59 p.m., my phone buzzed. Grandma's name appeared. The message couldn't have been recent. She had obviously scheduled it months before she died. I read it 3 times, then grabbed my keys. The streets were almost empty. Fireworks had already begun exploding across the city. When I reached Grandma's house, music drifted through the windows. Laughter echoed from upstairs. Nobody noticed me parking behind the detached garage. I quietly walked toward the old basement entrance, the same door Grandpa had always used after working in the garden. The lock still accepted the spare key Grandma had given me years earlier. Inside, the basement smelled exactly the same. Old wood, dust, lavender. I switched on the light, walked slowly toward the far wall. The old bookshelf hadn't moved. Neither had the faint scratch Grandpa had accidentally made while building it decades earlier. My heart pounded. I pushed against the shelf. At first, nothing happened. Then, with a quiet scraping sound, it slowly swung outward. Hidden behind it was a heavy steel safe. I stared at it in complete disbelief, hands trembling. I entered my birthday into the keypad. The lock clicked. Slowly, the safe door opened. Inside rested several thick envelopes, a small wooden box, and one leather folder with my name written across the front. Emma. I reached toward it, then stopped, because I suddenly realized everything my family had been fighting over upstairs might not have been Grandma's real inheritance after all. Sometimes, the greatest inheritance isn't the one everyone is fighting over. As the safe door slowly swung open beneath Grandma's house, my family laughed upstairs, convinced they'd already won. They had no idea Grandma had spent months preparing one final surprise for the only person who never asked her for anything. For several seconds, I couldn't move. The safe sat open. My family laughed upstairs, completely unaware that only a few feet beneath them, everything they believed about Grandma's estate was about to change. I picked up the leather folder with my name. Inside rested a handwritten letter. The familiar looping handwriting instantly filled my eyes with tears. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And if I've guessed correctly, the family is probably arguing over this house, instead of remembering why it mattered. A sad smile crossed my face. Even after death, Grandma knew us too well. The letter continued. You were the only person who came because you wanted to see me, not because it was Christmas, not because it was Easter, not because someone else expected you to. You came on ordinary Wednesdays. Those are the visits that meant everything. I wiped away another tear. Beneath the letter lay several thick envelopes labeled with different names. My mother, my Uncle Robert, my cousin Ashley, estate attorney. Each envelope remained sealed. At the bottom of the safe rested a heavy black binder. Across the front, Grandpa's handwriting read, House Restoration Records. I opened it. Inside were decades of paperwork, original purchase records, renovation permits, property surveys, receipts, insurance policies. Then, tucked inside a clear plastic sleeve, was another legal document, a notarized amendment to Grandma's trust, signed 6 months before she died. Attached was a letter from her attorney explaining exactly why the amendment had never been discussed with the family. According to the letter, Grandma had instructed him to wait until one specific condition occurred. Only release these documents if the family begins fighting over my house or attempts to ignore Emma's role in caring for me. My heart skipped. She had anticipated everything. Then I opened the envelope addressed to the attorney. Inside was another signed instruction. If Emma finds this safe, she has my permission to deliver these documents immediately. At that exact moment, footsteps echoed overhead. Someone upstairs had apparently noticed the basement lights. A voice called down. Hello. Another voice followed. Who's down there? I calmly closed the safe, tucked the folder beneath my arm, then walked upstairs, carrying only Grandma's letters. The basement door opened. My cousin Ashley stared at me. Emma, what are you doing here? Before I answered, everyone else appeared behind her. Mom, Uncle Robert, aunts, cousins, champagne glasses still in their hands. The room became silent. Mom frowned. You weren't invited. I know. Then why are you here? I quietly held up my phone. I received a scheduled message from Grandma. Nobody laughed, because they knew exactly how organized she had always been. What message? I showed them the screen. Mom read it aloud. Go to the basement. Behind the bookshelf. The combination is your birthday. The entire room froze. Uncle Robert immediately asked, What bookshelf? I looked toward the basement. The one hiding the safe. Silence. Complete silence. There was a safe. I nodded. Mom looked stunned. We've been cleaning this house for months. I know. You never found it. Ashley whispered. What's inside? I looked at the leather folder. I honestly don't know everything yet. Then open it. I already have. What does it say? I looked around the room. It says Grandma expected this exact argument. Nobody spoke. Finally, I placed the attorney's sealed envelope on the dining room table. This belongs to Mr. Harrison, our estate attorney. I'm taking it to him first thing tomorrow morning. Uncle Robert stepped forward. No, we should open it now. I gently shook my head. No, it isn't addressed to us. It's addressed to him. Mom looked nervous. What if it changes everything? I smiled sadly. I think that's exactly why Grandma wrote it. The next morning, Mr. Harrison asked me to meet him before his office officially opened. He carefully examined every document, every signature, every notarization, every instruction. Nearly 40 minutes passed before he finally removed his glasses, then smiled. I wondered if she'd actually done it. You knew. I knew she planned something. I never knew where she'd hidden it. He opened the trust amendment one final time, then looked directly at me. Emma, your grandmother never intended for this house to become a prize. What do you mean? He slid the document across the desk. The trust has changed. According to the amendment, the house could never be sold while it remained in the family. Instead, it had become something entirely different. A permanent family home. Any family member could stay there, celebrate holidays there, visit whenever they wished, but no individual could own it outright. No individual could force a sale. No individual could profit from it. Then I reached the final page. My breath caught. Grandma had appointed only one trustee responsible for maintaining the house and carrying out her wishes. Me. Not because she loved me more. Because in her own words, Emma has already spent years caring for this home without expecting anything in return. Mr. Harrison smiled. Legally, the responsibility now belongs to you. Epilogue, soft piano becomes lighter, carrying warmth instead of sorrow. It's been 5 years since that New Year's Eve. Grandma's house still stands exactly where it always has. The stained glass windows still catch the morning sunlight. The wraparound porch still overlooks the river. Only one thing has changed. No one argues there anymore. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every New Year's Eve, the house opens to every member of the family, exactly as Grandma wanted. No ownership, no competition, just home. Mom once admitted something that surprised me. The safe didn't change our family. What did? Realizing your grandmother knew us well enough to prepare for our worst moments. I smiled. She also believed we could become better. My thoughts. Looking back, the greatest thing Grandma left behind wasn't a hidden safe. It wasn't legal documents. It wasn't even the house. It was perspective. She understood that inheritances often divide families, so she created something no one could possess alone. A home that belonged to everyone, and responsibility entrusted to the one person who had already proven she understood the difference between ownership and stewardship. Sometimes, the most valuable inheritance isn't wealth. It's being trusted with someone else's legacy. And every New Year's Eve, when the clock reaches 11:59 p.m., my phone still reminds me of Grandma's final message. Not because I need directions to a hidden safe anymore, but because it reminds me of something far more important. The people who quietly show up when no one is watching are often the ones entrusted with what matters most.